Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for watching, much appreciated. So in today's video we're going to build a file upload web application using React and Firebase to store our files and also information about our files in a database. It's going to be a full stack file upload project for the web. It's not going to be anything crazy, but it's definitely going to give you a launching point to where you can turn this into other projects that you would deploy and could possibly, use to make some money with possibly, and I'll explain how to do that in the video. Alright, so don't forget to leave a like if you find this video helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, please leave that in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified. I upload a video every single week. So please do that. And with all that out of the way, thank you for watching, and let's get started. Alright guys, so let's get started. So as I said, we're going to be using Firebase and React. So here's Firebase. You log in with your Google login or any login, and you're going to see this when you go to the console. But before we dip into this, let me show you what packages we're going to be using for React. We're going to be using this React Firebase hooks just to get some auth hooks to make it a little easier, and I'll get into that later. I'm going to be using React Bootstrapped for this, just to make it look nice, because I figured, why not? We're working on a project, might as well make it nice. And also this UUID, which basically just generates a random series of characters. We're going to use that to rename our files so we don't have duplicate files. So this is all the tingies here. So I'm going to come back to that. So here's our Firebase. You're going to log in, go to console, and then you're going to add a project. We're going to call this Firebase -file -upload. Continue. We don't need Google Analytics for this, but feel free to do that if you want. It just links to a current Google Analytics account. But for this we don't need it, obviously. Alright, and it's creating it all behind the scenes. You don't have to do a darn thing. Continue to our project. Now this is what you see when you first go in. So this is your project: authentication, database, real-time database, and storage. We're going to be using the Firestore database and the storage bucket. We're not going to get into authentication because I have another video, which I'll link in the description, about a full stack web application that includes authentication. I will link that in the description if you're interested. First thing we want to do is create a web app. This is Android, that's iOS. You create a web app. It could be anything you want, but I'm just going to stick with it. Firebase file upload. Doesn't matter what you call this. This is for Firebase hosting, which we don't need as of this moment. If you guys want me to do a Firebase hosting video, please let me know and I'd be glad to. So we're doing this and doing that. It's creating a web application, so your project that we created in the beginning can have a multitude of applications, but in this case we're having a web app. You could also have an Android app, an iOS app, and a web app all in the same thing. Okay, so now this is what we need. This right here, these Firebase config files. Okay, so I'm actually gonna copy that, and I'm gonna come over here, and I'm gonna create a file. Hold on, I'll explain in just a second. Firebase.js. And I'm going to post it in there. Okay, so there's all those things that we have. Now I'm just going to save that for now. Just follow along. We're not done yet. So once we have that, we're going to continue to our console. So you see we have one app, project settings. Now that those configs are right here if you ever lose it. This little gear, project settings, and then you come down to the bottom and they're here. Now if you're doing a web app, or I'm sorry, a mobile app, it's going to be a different setup. Just haven't gotten to those videos yet, but I will. Okay, the other thing we need to do in Firebase is we need to turn on, for this project, we need to turn on our Firebase Firestore database, create it. I'm going to start it in test mode. You know, there's test mode or production mode, just different rules depending. You pick your time zone, but I'm just going to go with that because that's fine. It doesn't really matter for this project. Okay, it's setting up your Firestore for this project so that you can use Firestore. So these are all SDKs that you use in your project. Now here, that's it. We don't have to do anything else. Okay. Let's go to storage. Okay. Now it's already here. It's already turned on. Rules. I'm going to change this to. Now this is because we're not doing authentication. If you did have authentication, you wouldn't touch this because it says request.auth, meaning if the request.auth is not equal to null, then allow a read and write to the storage. But since we're not doing that's right, double equal or triple? I guess it's triple. Whoops. It's triple. No. Okay, it's double equal. I forget what it is. I'm doing it off the top of my head. Okay, there we go. So now we'll be able to write it. But again, if you have authentication, just leave this alone. Don't change that. I'm just changing it because I need to. We're not doing authentication. So here we are. We have our entire Firebase set up. Okay, so we don't need that anymore. I'll just leave it up for now. Alright, so the first thing we need to do, I'm going to close this for now. First thing I did was I did npx create react app in a folder called firebase.-file, call it whatever you like, and then I just went ahead and cleaned up some of the extra files that they have in here that we don't really need for this thing. I deleted all the CSS. If you have any questions about this, I will leave a link in the description on how to start a React project with Create React App. I will leave that linked in the description as well as possibly the cards if I remember. Okay, so first thing we need to do is install our packages. npm I for install, Firebase of course, excuse me, UUID, which we need, React-Firebase-hooks, and I'm going to go back here for our React Bootstrap. Okay, I'm going to install all those packages, and I'll upload this to my GitHub for you guys. It won't have my specific Firebase config objects in there, but for obvious reasons, you guys shouldn't be able to use that. But everything else will be the same. So you would just copy and you would just clone the repository, and then you would copy and paste your own Firebase config files. Okay, good. That was a lot faster than I thought. Just clear that. Okay, good. Now everything's installed. You can see here we have Firebase, Bootstrap, Firebase hooks, and UUID. Cool. Now let's see, what should we do first? Let's start with the obvious. We got to start with our Firebase file, because obviously this looks. I'm going to move this terminal down, move to the bottom just so we can see a little better. All right, now obviously this is no good, so I'm just going to move this down a little bit, and we're going to. So the good thing about Firebase is that you basically bring in the things that you want to use. So first we're going to import Firebase itself from Firebase/app. Don't forget the /app, otherwise you'll get an error. Import. Now here's where we import the different SDKs. Firebase /Firestore. You have to import them, and then we're going to create a variable to export them into other components. Import Firebase /storage. Okay. Whoops. Okay. Now we're going to create a const. Okay. Const. We're going to call it app, since this is our app. Is going to be equal to Firebase, which is this up here. Okay. Firebase dot initialize app, which comes with Firebase. It's a method. And we're going to place in that an object, which is this, our configuration object. So I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to paste it in there. Okay, good. Now we got to create a, we got to export a few variables. So I'm going to call this Firestore, just so we can have all of our Firebase configuration in one file, and then we can just pull it in as we need it. Dot Firestore. Okay. Export. We're going to export these manually, or export it as we go. Storage. We'll call this. It's going to be equal to app, which is this app variable here, which contains all our configuration. Dot storage. As you can see, VS Code knows it. And then we need to export the default, export default of our app. Okay, good. And that's it. That's all our Firebase configuration. Now, if you were doing auth, you would do import. You know, it would be auth instead of whatever. But in this, and that's all included in that other video that's in the description, which I will leave for you if you're interested. Save all. We're going to close this. Good. Now, just to keep things simple, we're basically going to do everything in our app file. Okay. Normally you would break it up into a components folder, but for simplicity's sake, we're going to do everything in one file. Okay? Feel free to do it however you like. So first we're going to import React, which you don't really have to, but I'm superstitious. Use state, because we're going to use that. Import. Actually, I can go to here, the UUID, and just copy this. Import version 4 as UUID version 4 from UUID. I'm just going to copy and paste that in there. Good. Next, let's see. Let's import the React hook, React Firebase hook, which is use use collection data from React Firebase hooks. Okay. Next is the Firebase elements that we need, which is Firestore and storage, which we just created in the firebase.js. From /Firebase in that Firebase file, which I'll show you, is these two things right here. That's what we're importing. Okay. And I guess for now we could also import the React Bootstrap stuff that we're going to need. We're going to need a form, a button, and an alert. From quotes React. Where is it? What is it? React Bootstrap. Okay. And one other thing we need to quickly do, I'm going to copy and paste it. We need to go in our index.js file, and we need to import Bootstrap there, just so it works. You could put the CDN inside your index.html file, but that's not really recommended. This is a little bit of a cleaner way to do it. I just come in here and I'm going to say import bootstrap / dist / css / bootstrap .min.css, so our bootstrap elements will work. Okay, good. Now let's get back to the meat and potatoes here. So first let's see. Let me come in here real quick in our index.html. I'm going to change the title to file upload. Firebase file upload. And let's actually get this running. npm start. And let's see what we get here. Okay, I'm going to close these because we're done. I'm going to leave my Firebase open in case we need it later. Okay, it's running. Firebase file upload. Okay, can't resolve. Okay, app.js. Close this. Close this. Oh, sorry, this needs to be /firestore. Alright, there we go. Now don't worry about all these warnings. Just refresh. Open up our terminal or our console. Rather, all these, don't worry about it, they'll go away. We just haven't, they're just variables we haven't used yet. But anyway, so this is it. I'll say h4 and I have Emmet installed. Base file upload, and let's just make sure it's working properly, and there we go. Okay, now for this main div, this is going to be our main div, and we're going to create some other components down here to bring into our main div. But let me just give this some quick bootstrap styling. We're going to say width 100, margin of 4 all around, display flex. These are all bootstrap core classes. Flex column, justify content center, which I cover in another video, bear with me. Flexbox, I can link that in the description as well if I remember. If not, it's a recent video, so just check it out. It's good. I go over Flexbox with both vanilla CSS and also Bootstrap. Okay, now I'm going to add a style component just right in line. It's not ideal, but it's fine for this thing. We're going to say 100. Oops, sorry, it needs to have quotes. 100 viewport heights. Okay, let's see what we got. Save that. And there we go. Looks a little funky right now, but it's okay. And one quick thing, this justify content, I put that to go at the start. There we go. Nice, good. Okay. So don't worry about these. If they really annoy you, you can just hit this little stop Ghostbuster sign and it'll take that away. Now, let's get to the real meat and potatoes, like I said 100 times already. And let's create our component for the file upload, shall we? Okay, so down here outside of the app function, we're going to create const. We'll just call file upload equals, this is our component element here. Okay, I'm going to give it some space. I'm going to do a return statement, and let's just get our JSX out of the way, or what looks like our HTML. Let's just get that out of the way. I'm going to do H5, which I have Emmet configured. upload file here. Okay, next line. We're going to do a form using the React Bootstrap form here. Good. Let's see if I can scroll down. There you go, so you can see better. Good. We're going to do a form, and the thing I like about Bootstrap, React Bootstrap rather than React Strap or just regular Bootstrap, is you only import form, and then when you want to do form group, you just do form dot group instead of importing form group, form control, form label, etc. Okay, so you just import one thing and then you can use a bunch. Okay, so form group, then our form dot control, self-closing tag. We're going to say it's a type of type of file. Here's a nice little trick. This is an HTML attribute that also works in JSX, except you can tell the form what to look for, right? So we're going to look for .pdf and .PDF. Okay. Oops. .pdf, sorry. And then it will only display PDFs right off the bat. Now keep in mind the user can still select to see all files, so it's not validation, but it is a nice little thing to have. Okay, and let's create a button, and we'll say upload, and we need to give this some functionality and some style. I'm going to say class name, class capital name. It's going to be equal to, we'll give it a margin top -2 just to push it down from the form a little bit. We're going to give it a type of submit for when we submit our form so that we can keep track of it. And we're going to give it a variant. With React Bootstrap, you set a variant rather than a class name. I mean, you could set it in the class name, but you could, set btn and all that crap, but you don't have to. You could just type here, you can type variant, let's say success, make it a green color. You could also type size and say small or large. I guess we'll go large, whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, so that's basically our form. I'll show you what it looks like real quick before we add any functionality. Oh, right. So we have our file upload component here. Let's put that in here. Okay. File upload. Let's put that right below here. Upload here. Now if you were bringing this in from another file, you'd have to import it up here and then use it here, but since it's in the same app.js file, we just have to put it in there, because the app function, the app functional component, is what's being exported. And there you go. Right, you can choose a file, and like I said, if I go to desktop, it only shows PDFs, but down here you can come and say all files, and you can see there's an image, there's a video. That's my intro, shut up. It'll show everything. So down the line, we're going to show you how we're going to make it so people can only select PDFs. If you're making, that's where I was going with this. If you wanted to make like a program where, like a file sharing thing, like if somebody wants to share files that are really large and then send a link to an email and then they can download it, this would be the way to do that. This would be sort of the basis of that. But if you wanted to control what kind of files people could upload, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So anyway, so obviously nothing happens other than the page reload. So let's take care of that. Let's come down here. Now we're going to need some state from useState, which we already imported up above. Const, we're going to call this file and set file for our method, to our onChange method. And initially we'll just set it to an empty string. It doesn't really matter. You could say null. We're gonna have an error state and a set error, just to handle if there's any errors in the upload process to notify the user. And we're gonna have a message for like a success message. Set message equals use state empty string. Initially, it's going to change, obviously. Now, let's handle our form submit, and in order to do that, we have to assign it on submit here, and we'll call this handle submit. This is our function, so when somebody submits the form, something happens. Const handle submit. It's an async function, so I'm just going to add async here, and I'm going to pass in an event parameter so we can track the event, and when there is that event, we're going to prevent the default action of the browser, which is to refresh the page. We don't want that to happen, so we're going to stop it with e.prevent default. I'm sure you've heard that. Next, I want to scroll down so you can see. So we're going to do some conditional logic here. We're going to say if there is no file, or if there's not, if there's not a file, I'm going to set, error to, I don't know, please upload a file. Just, in case somebody hits the submit button and there's nothing in there, and then we return, so it stops the entire process. Next, we're going to say if not file. This is where we're going to check to see what kind of file it is, and there's a couple of different ways to do this, but this is the way I like to do it. So if the file .name, and I'll get into that later, so when somebody uploads a file, it's going to save into, we're going to set it into state. And it's basically an array or an object of things, and it has a name, it has a type, it has a size, etc. So we're going to get the name. So if the name does not match /dot, so starting at the dot, if it doesn't match PDF, or which is the pipe character, which is above your enter key, or PDF. I'm just going to do PDF so somebody can only upload a PDF. And then we end it. Honestly, I'm not really sure what this does, but I know that it works. It's, character checking, basically. Then here, set message to nothing, just in case there was in case they uploaded a file successfully and then they tried to upload one that wasn't a PDF, just to set it, set error to the message, you must upload a PDF file. Now you can do whatever you want. You can go like this, and you could say JPEG, you could say PNG, but for this we're just going to do PDF. Okay. Set error. Good. And we're also just going to return it. So nothing happens. We're going to return it. Alright, so now that we're done with our conditional logic, let me go down and scroll down. We're all still in the same handle submit function, okay? And again, I'll put the code on my GitHub. Okay? Now, we need to actually, let's come back down to our file here. Excuse me, to our JSX. And I'm going to come on our form control, and I'm going to put an on change event. Right? So what are we trying to check for? Well, if somebody uploads a file to our form control, I'm going to have a callback function with an event parameter. So when there is a change on the file or on the input, we're going to then, set file to the event, whatever the event is, .target files. Okay? Files, and in our case, we're only allowing one file upload. We're not going to get into all that. So we're just going to get the first one, which of course in JavaScript arrays start at 0. But I knew you knew that. Okay. We're not getting any errors. Don't worry about this. We haven't used everything yet. So when there is that event, when something does happen, what we want to do is we want to append the form data equals new form data function. So we're basically we're appending the form, because it's technically it's not information, it's not JSON, it's basically a blob is what they call it. So just create a new variable, use that form variable data, and we're going to append. We're going to append the file. It's going to be called file, and then we're going to pass on the file itself. Okay. Now, so out of this file, let's console.log. We're going to say we're going to form data. Let's just see what happens so far. Okay. So as you can see, let me clear this. So as you can see, if I upload, I forgot to come down here and add our JSX. So let's come in here and let's open up a JSS expression. We'll say if there is an error, then do an alert variant would be equal to danger, which is like a red color because it's an error. And then we're just going to pass in our error, whatever the error message is that we typed up top. Next is message. So if there's a message, then do an alert the variant of success, because it'll only be if there's a successful action, like a successful upload. I'm going to say put the message, save all. Good. Come here. Now as you can see, please upload a file. I'll show you that again. So if I don't choose a file and I hit upload, nothing happens, right? If I choose a file and I choose an image, it's going to say you must upload a PDF file. If I choose a PDF file, upload, here's our form data. Okay? And here's all the things, you know, that we have there. Okay, good. So we're working so far. Good. I'm going to delete this console.log. Always delete excess console.log so you don't need. So, you know what? Let me show you, just in case you're not familiar, let me show you console.log file. Let me show you the actual thing of what's being uploaded. Clear that. Upload, and here's our file thing of all our information. Here's the name, the size, and the type. Okay, so we're interested in this. We want the name. Okay, so delete console.log, and we're going to create a variable. We're going to store the file name in a variable called file name, camel case, which is the first letter is lowercase and the second, every word thereafter is uppercase. It's going to be equal to file.name. Oops, sorry, lowercase. Okay, now what we're going to be doing is, so basically we're going to rename every file that comes in, because when you upload a file to Firebase, and then if somebody accidentally uploads or inadvertently uploads a file that has the exact same name as somebody else, it's going to overwrite that, and it's going to get messed up. So we're going to handle that for them, and we're going to rename every single file. Okay, and then we're going to store the new file name and the original file name in our database so we can reference it later. And that's what we're going to use UUID for. Okay, but first I want to get the file extension, const file extension, the .pdf, which we know it's going to be PDF, but just in case you want to do something else, it's going to be equal to file name .split. Now we want to split the string where? At the period, right? And then we want to .pop the rest of that. So we're going to pop off the dot, starting at the dot, and we're going to get the last remaining characters, which is the PDF. Now, I'm going to create a const called hash. It's going to be equal to UUID because we want to generate a random series of characters. Okay. Now, const. Now this is our full file name. Hashed file is going to be equal to template strings or template literals, which is the little notch next to your 1. I'm going to do a variable. I'm going to put our hash, our new name, our new hash name, and then a dot, and then another variable, file extension, or the file extension that it gets. So we're basically breaking it down, renaming each piece, and then putting it back together in this hashed file variable. Okay, good. Hopefully that makes sense. Now let's create a reference to our Firestore. Const file name storage ref. Kind of long, but it makes sense. Firestore. Remember that the Firestore variable we imported from our firebase.js file. Collection, and then files. So that's, oops, sorry, that should be in quotes. Files. Now that's going to be the name of our database or our collection in Firebase. Okay. I'm going to assign some metadata just so Firebase knows what kind of file this is. Whoops. No slash, just an object. Content type is going to be set to application, I can never spell this, /PDF, which is the same as right here. So it's set here, but we're telling Firebase what it is, just so there's no confusion. Excuse me. Now, let's do one more thing. I promise we're going to get to uploading it at some point. I promise. Stick with me. So we're going to say let file ref equal. Now this is what we're going to store in our database. Okay. This right here is all going to get used to store our file. Then we're going to come down here and we're going to say hash file name is going to be that hashed file. Okay, let me explain. So this is going to be the key, and this is the value, which is right up here. So that broken down and reconstructed file name, that's what we're going to store. Okay, comment, and then we're going to do original file name is going to be the original file name, which we set up right here, which is just coming from our file information. Okay, good. Now we're going to set our error back to nothing again, just in case. Okay, now the old try catch block. Pass in an error, and we'll say console.log message e.message. Okay. Now in our try block, this is actually the easiest part. Basically, we're going to do some conditional logic just to check for errors. But for the most part, it's pretty self-explanatory. Let me scroll up. Now we're going to const storage ref is going to be equal to await, because remember this is a async function. We're going to take that storage variable, storage, if I could spell it, and we're going to .ref. This is a Firebase thing. I'm going to open template literal strings, because it's got to be in quotes, and I'm going to do that hashed file. That's what we're going to save. Okay, we're telling Firebase we're going to store our hashed file as the name, right? That's what we're going to store it as. Then we're going to pass in our file. Whoops, sorry. .put. We're going to put our file and our metadata. Okay. So we're making a reference. This is what we're going to store it as, and this is the actual. Whoops. This is the actual act of putting our file and our metadata. And as you can see up here, we created form data, and then we appended on the file. Okay. Cool. This should be const without a y. Let's save all that for now. We might get an error. Hash file. Oh, whoops. What the heck? Somehow it got deleted. Hashed file name. Right? No, hashed file. Just hash file. Somehow that got deleted. Okay, we're good. Now, so back when I first started, it always confused me when you would upload a file and then have to store information about that file. It always confused me. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to await this process. We're going to store the file in the storage bucket or the folder. Then we're going to check to see if that was successful. If it was, we're going to move on and we're going to store our information. So you upload the file to the storage bucket first, and then you take that same information and push it to your database. You'll see. So we're going to do some conditional logic. If not storage ref, so if this was unsuccessful, set error to there was an issue uploading your file. Okay, so if there was an error here, it's going to throw an error. If not, it's going to move on. Now we're going to say const file name stored. It's going to be equal to await. We're going to await this process as well. File name storage ref. File name storage ref, which was, that's it. That's what we're going to call it. Dot add, and we're going to pass in our file ref, which is this up here. Okay. Oh, and this. Sorry, this is the file name storage ref that I referenced right here. We're going to add this file ref object. Okay. So we're good, and then we're going to do a check for that. So if you don't, I mean, you can if you want, but I'm doing it for good measure. File name stored. So if there was no file name stored, we're going to set error, no file name stored. Okay, so we're all good there. Scroll down. And so if everything went well, we're going to set error back to nothing, an empty string. And we're going to set message to success. Your file was uploaded. And that should be it. So, well, that's it for uploading our files. Let's see. Okay, don't worry about that. Alright, let's try. Let me refresh just for excuse me, good measure. So we're going to choose a file. I'm going to just make sure our validation still works. Yep, good. Must be a PDF file. So I'm going to select a PDF file. Upload. And success, your file was uploaded. Let's check our Firebase to see if we have a file in there. And there we go. We have our file, and notice the file name is this long hashed series of characters. And let's check our database, and notice we have a collection with a document with the hashed file name and the original file name. There you go. So we're good. Okay, now of course we want to now show our files, right, which makes sense. So let's do that next. Let's come over here, move this down just a little bit. So that's our file name. I'm sorry, so let me, just so there's no confusion, I'm going to collapse this. I'm going to come down here, create another, oops, very tired, const show files, I guess, equals our next component, okay? So now we want to show our files and allow the users to click them and to view them, okay, which makes sense, right? So what should we do first? Let's get the JSX out of the way. Okay, there's not much, but there's a lot of conditional logic. So let me come down here, add in a return statement. Okay, and I'm going to add a div with a class of, I'll say width 50%, and margin -4. Okay, and that's Emmett. So let's see, there's not much. Actually, most of our JSX that's going to come in here is going to come from logic. We're not just going to type out various JSX things. So let's start by bringing in the things that we need. So we're going to do const file name ref. It's going to be equal to firestore .collection, because we need to get the file name, the hashed file name, files. So we're going to make a reference to that so we can use it later. Const, we're going to do a query. This is for Firebase to query the Firestore database. It's going to be equal to that file name ref dot order by our hashed file name, which is in here, this key here, hashed file name. So that's what it's going to sort it by. And I'm sorry, this should be in quotes. Okay, now let's store what it returns into an array called files. It's going to be equal to use data collection. Sorry, no, use collection data, which is that React Firebase hook. The only one we're using. There's a bunch more, but we're going to do we're going to pass on our query, and we're also going to get the ID. How do you spell field? F-I-E-L-D, I think. And we're going to call that ID. So we're going to get the ID. We're going to get this ID. Otherwise, it won't pass it through. All right. So basically, that's it. All right. So right now, all of our files from our database, not the actual storage, but all this information is now going to be stored in this array of files. So now we can sort of start adding our display. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is, instead of typing out, I'm going to create a const called file list. It's going to be equal to files and files.map, just to make sure we get it all. I'm going to pass in two parameters. Each individual file is going to be called a file. And I'm going to pass the iterator. Okay. Here's our callback function with the Jesus, these pop-ups are annoying. So our callback function with our map. Let's put them in an alert. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Jesus, these pop-ups are really driving me nuts. Sorry, guys. I keep forgetting to turn that off. I promise I will at one point. Variant. Sometimes they're helpful though. Variant success. Okay, and then we need a key for React, which is going to be our iterator. So whatever iteration it's on, it's going to be that. We're going to do a button. Okay. And we're going to say for this button, we're going to put in the file dot original file name, because the person that uploads is going to know it by the original file name. Okay, but we know that if there's duplicate file names, it could cause a problem in the database. Can't even talk. Variant, we're just going to make this a link. Doesn't need to be a button. And then of course we need an on click to handle it. I'll just do it now. So we're going to pass in the F for the file, for the hashed file name, callback function. We'll say download file, and then we're going to pass in the file dot hashed file name so that we can do our download function. And up here, let's create the download function. Download file equals it's async. It is, no, I'm sorry, not async, doesn't need to be. So we're only doing one thing. So we got to pass in the F for the file, that hashed file name. Storage, this is to download our file from the storage, and we got to tell React where to look. We got to tell this where to look. So F, we're going to download the file based on the reference of F, which is that file.hash name. Then we're going to use a method called get download URL, which is provided by Firebase. Then we're going to, this is promise based by the way, we're going to pass in the URL. Now this is a little bit of JavaScript. You don't have to do this, but this is the way I am going to do it. So basically we're going to say let link. We're going to create, each file is going to create an element. Document dot create element of an anchor tag or a link, right? Then, so we're going to do a little logic. If there is a link dot download, I'm sorry, if link dot, I can't even talk, guys, sorry. Link dot download is not equal to undefined, then we're going to proceed. Okay. This is standard JavaScript stuff. So link dot set attribute. Oops, sorry about that. Link dot set attribute. We're going to make it an href, and we're going to pass in the URL to the href, of course, because we want it to open. Link dot set attribute. Good. Oh, stop it. Attribute. We're going to say, you don't have to do this, but I like doing it. Target underscore blank, so it opens up in a new page. Okay. Link dot style dot visibility is going to be initially hidden until we click on it, right? Because you don't want it to, otherwise it'll just automatically pop up all the time. Let me scroll down so you can see. Okay. Oh, sorry, there should be no semicolon there. That's why we're getting this little error. Next is document dot body dot append child, the link. Okay, and then we're going to set the event thing to check when it's clicked. And oops, document dot body dot remove child when we're all said and done. Pass in the link. Alright, I think, let's see. Oh, we got to add our our JSX down here. So basically, instead of putting it all in the return statement, I just put most of the logic right here, and then we can just come in here and type in file list. But I'm going to do some conditional logic. So if there is files, so if there are indeed files, dot length. So if files.length, meaning the array of files, is equal to 0, then I'm going to do something. Oops, sorry. Then I'm going to do something. This is a ternary operator, by the way. And there should be a question mark here. So if the file length is 0, meaning there's no files, we're going to set an alert variant of secondary, which is like a gray color. And we'll say no files found. If there are files, if there have been files uploaded, we're just going to put a fragment, a React fragment, and we're going to pass in that file list variable, which is up here, this thing, which prints out an alert box for each one of the files that we have. So technically this should work. Import use collecting data is not exported from, what? Let me see. Oh, sorry, I have a spelling error. 2 L's in collection. Oh my god. Okay, so we're in the home stretch. So use collection, good. I fixed that. Now we got to put in our show files component here. Save. Good. And there it is. There's our file. Now let's see if we click it. And there you go. This is a test file. There's our file. And see here, it gives you the name of it. Here's the hashed name of it. But if you'll notice, when we right here, it shows the original file name so that the user who picked it, who uploaded it, isn't confused. You know, if they see this, they don't know which one it is. But if they recognize the name, then they can see it. Now, good. And let's add another one. Open, upload. Success, your file was uploaded, and as you can see, it's there. Good. Now let's do one last thing where we add an option. It just makes sense. This is not a big deal, but I thought it would be kind of a good idea. We're going to add a little button over here so that we can delete the file from the database. And now keep in mind, when we do that, we have to delete the actual file from the storage bucket, and we have to delete the record from the Firestore database so that this goes away. This is propagated from the database. So let's go down, file upload, let me close that. So let's go here. Okay, let me move this back down. Let's go here. Now in here, I want to create another button. Okay, I'm going to do a span. I'm going to do a button, and we're just going to do this this thing n times like that, which makes a little X. Let me scroll down. Variant, I don't know. Oops, sorry. Variant danger, so it's red, right? And then of course we need an on-click event. On-click equals callback function passing in an E for the event. So when the event is, or when the button is clicked, there's an event, and we want to do a function delete file, right? And then we want to pass in our event, our file .id, which is named up here in this ID field. You know, whatever you name this is what we reference down here. Okay. And then we need to pass in the file .hashed file name, because we need all those things in our delete function. Okay, so that's that. I'll show you what it looks like real quick. Oh, never mind, it errors out because we didn't create the delete function. Const delete file equals async. Okay, because we need to do two processes, and we need to make sure to wait for one to be finished before the other one is. Okay, and we need to pass in the event. The ID. Oh my god, I can't type, sorry. And the name of the file, the hashed name. And for now, let's console.log, just the ID and the name we need. Jesus, I'm sorry guys. Can't type. Okay. Looks like we're good. I mean, we're not doing anything, but anyway, there's our button. There's our ID that we need to delete from the database, and there's our file that we need to delete. Okay. Close that a little bit. Right, and it's the same. If you'll notice, it changes because it's different for all of them. Okay, good. Now let me get rid of this console.log thing. Sometimes I love VS Code, but sometimes it's too smart for its own good. Storage.ref, so we need to reference our storage. Okay. And we're gonna ref that name, which is the hashed password, and we're gonna call delete, and that deletes it from our storage. Next, we have to await this, our firestore.collections. I could make a reference, but we're at the end. Let's just get this over with. Files, and so we're gonna reference our files Firestore database doc. Our files collection. We're going to find the ID that's passed in, and then we're going to call .delete. Okay, and then of course, because we have to, we'll do a catch e, and if there's an error, we'll console.log msg or message e.message. Okay, let's see if that works. Looks like we got compiled successfully. Let's check it out. Good, let's click this. Delete. Delete. It's deleting. Let's see, what is this? Let's check here. As you can see, we're only down to 1. Let's check our storage if it deleted correctly. Yep, and we're down to 1. Alright guys, so listen, that's it. If you have any follow-up questions, please leave them in the comments below. I will be uploading this project minus my Firestore, minus my Firebase configs, obviously. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you learned something from this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on the bell icons so that you can get notified when I upload a new video, which is every week, usually every Friday or Saturday. So please do that. Thanks guys, take care, see ya.